Susan Dey was born on December 10, 1952, in Pekin, Illinois, USA, and grew up in a middle-class family where creativity and personal ambition were quietly encouraged. Her father, Robert Smith Dey, was a newspaper editor, and her mother, Ruth Pyle Dey, was a nurse, instilling in Susan a blend of intellectual curiosity and compassion from an early age. When she was just 8 years old, tragedy struck the family as her mother passed away, a loss that left a deep impression on her young life and shaped her sense of independence. Raised partly in New York after her father relocated for work, Susan attended Columbus Elementary School and later Fox Lane High School in Bedford, where she excelled academically, but was also noted for her beauty, poise, and understated charm. Initially, she had no strong ambitions toward acting. In fact, she dreamed of becoming a writer or working in a creative field behind the scenes. However, destiny began to take shape when she was encouraged to try modeling as a teenager. Her striking looks and natural ease in front of the camera quickly caught the attention of the prestigious Wilhelmina Modeling Agency, and she began appearing in teen magazines, catalogs, and commercial print work during the late 1960s. This unexpected introduction to the entertainment industry became the stepping stone for her acting career. Without any formal acting training, Susan was cast at the age of 17 in what would become one of television's most beloved musical sitcoms, The Partridge Family, 1970 to 1974, playing Laurie Partridge, the witty and level-headed daughter in a family band. The show was a cultural sensation, catapulting Dey to instant fame and making her a teen idol almost overnight. Her casting was a rare stroke of luck. Producer and casting agents were taken by her wholesome image and natural charm, believing she could embody the perfect mix of intelligence, warmth, and relatability. Although she entered the set as a newcomer, surrounded by more experienced co-stars, Susan quickly adapted, learning the craft of acting through observation, rehearsal, and sheer determination. Balancing school with a shooting schedule, she began to understand the demands of celebrity life while still navigating her late teenage years. Her early years in Hollywood were marked by both excitement and intense pressure, as the public's fascination with her personal life grew and the demands of fame began to weigh on her. Nevertheless, those formative years laid the groundwork for a career that would evolve far beyond the confines of a teen sitcom, setting the stage for Susan Dey to transform from a fresh-faced ingenue into a serious and respected actress in the years to come. Following the end of The Partridge Family in 1974, Susan Dey faced the daunting challenge of breaking free from the image of Laurie Partridge, a role that had defined her teenage years and made her a household name. Many young actors in similar positions found themselves typecast and unable to transition into more mature roles. But Dey was determined to prove she was more than a teen idol. She took a deliberate step toward growth by accepting a variety of guest roles on television throughout the late 1970s, honing her skills in dramatic performances that contrasted sharply with her earlier wholesome image. Her first significant departure came with the 1977 television movie Mary Jane Harper Cried Last Night, in which she played a troubled mother accused of child abuse. A raw, emotionally intense performance that earned her critical praise and marked her as a serious actress. This willingness to tackle challenging material caught the attention of producers and casting directors, and throughout the late 70s and early 80s, she appeared in a series of made-for-TV movies and miniseries, gradually building a reputation for depth and versatility. However, it was in 1986 that Susan Dey entered the true peak of her career when she was cast as Assistant District Attorney Grace Van Owen on NBC's legal drama L.A. Law. The role was a perfect match for her evolving screen presence, poised, intelligent, assertive, yet layered with vulnerability. Her portrayal quickly became one of the show's most compelling elements, and she earned a Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in a Television Drama Series in 1988, along with multiple Emmy nominations. L.A. Law was not only a ratings hit but also a cultural touchstone of the late 80s and early 90s. Known for its sharp writing, socially relevant themes, and dynamic ensemble cast, and Dey's work stood at the forefront of its success. Her elegant, commanding performance redefined her in the eyes of both audiences and critics, cementing her place as one of television's most respected leading actresses of the era. During this period, she also took on selective film work, appearing in movies like Echo Park, 1985, and Looker, 1981, demonstrating a willingness to explore unconventional projects. At the height of her fame, Susan Dey became a style icon, gracing magazine covers, being invited to high-profile events, and commanding a strong presence in the public eye while carefully guarding her private life. This era represented the culmination of her transition from teen stardom to respected dramatic talent, a transformation that few could achieve with such grace and staying power. It was during these years that Susan Dey's name became synonymous with both sophistication and substance in Hollywood, ensuring her legacy as a performer who successfully reinvented herself without ever losing the qualities that first captivated audiences. Despite the prestige and acclaim that came with her role on L.A. Law, the late 1980s and early 1990s were not without turbulence for Susan Dey. Beneath the polished exterior, she faced intense personal pressures that came with being a public figure, navigating the competitive and often ruthless environment of Hollywood. One of the earliest and most widely reported tensions emerged from her time on The Partridge Family, when retrospective accounts and cast reunions revealed strained relationships, most notably her complicated and often awkward dynamic with co-star David Cassidy. While the show had portrayed a wholesome family image, Dey later admitted to harboring unreciprocated feelings for Cassidy during their youth, which created an emotional rift when they drifted apart in the years following the show. Her absence from later Partridge Family reunion events only fueled speculation about lingering discomfort, which the media seized upon with relish. Professionally, her departure from L.A. Law in 1992 was another moment clouded by rumor and conflicting narratives. While officially framed as a career choice to pursue new opportunities, industry whispers suggested creative disagreements behind the scenes and possible tensions with the show's producers over her character's direction. Adding to the challenges, Susan Dey was known for her fiercely private nature, which sometimes clashed with the era's growing appetite for celebrity access. Her refusal to participate in high-profile talk shows or engage in promotional fluff was interpreted by some as aloofness, while admirers saw it as a dignified stand against the intrusive tabloid culture. This guardedness, however, meant she could not always control the narrative when rumors swirled about her personal life. A particularly persistent point of gossip was her alleged estrangement from parts of the Hollywood community, reinforced when she declined to attend the Partridge Family 1993 reunion special, which many interpreted as a deliberate distancing from her early career. Beyond interpersonal disputes, Dey also contended with the quiet but intense struggle of maintaining a balanced life after achieving rapid fame as a teenager. Former colleagues have spoken of her perfectionism and occasional difficulty in navigating collaborative environments, traits that could be both an asset to her craft and a source of conflict on set. While these controversies never escalated into career-ending scandals, they contributed to a narrative of Susan Dey as a talented yet enigmatic figure, admired for her work but often misunderstood in the public sphere. In retrospect, this period reflected the double-edged sword of Hollywood success. The very qualities that made her compelling on screen, intensity, independence, emotional depth, were the same ones that, off-screen, could be misinterpreted as detachment or discord. After stepping away from the whirlwind of primetime television in the early 1990s, Susan Dey entered a quieter, more deliberate chapter of her career. Rather than chasing the relentless momentum of network dramas, she selectively chose projects that aligned with her personal values and creative instincts. This period was less about recapturing the feverish pace of her early fame and more about redefining what success meant to her. Television movies became a primary vehicle for this reinvention, allowing her to explore complex, mature roles in productions such as Bed of Lies, 1992, and Deadly Love, 1995. These projects, often rooted in true stories or unconventional narratives, offered Day a chance to showcase her dramatic range beyond the glamorous yet constrained framework of LA Law. Her comeback was not orchestrated with grand publicity campaigns or blockbuster ambitions. Instead, it was marked by a steady return to the kind of acting that had first inspired her, character-driven stories with emotional depth. By the late 1990s, she had quietly cultivated a reputation in certain industry circles as an actress who could carry a film's emotional core without overshadowing the ensemble. This selective re-emergence also extended to her personal life. While she remained guarded with the press, Day began to appear more frequently at charity functions and industry events, particularly those focused on children's welfare and mental health advocacy. These public moments allowed her to reintroduce herself not just as a former television star, but as a thoughtful public figure committed to causes beyond the entertainment world. Perhaps the most striking aspect of Susan Day's return was its intentional lack of spectacle. She resisted the temptation to accept offers that traded on nostalgia, such as high-profile Partridge Family revivals or sensational memoir deals. Instead, her comeback was more of a personal renaissance, an affirmation that her identity was not bound solely to her early fame. By choosing quality over quantity, she managed to retain her dignity and professional integrity in an industry that often pressures aging actresses into compromising roles. This restraint also gave her work a rare authenticity. When she did appear on screen, audiences could sense the deliberation and care behind each performance. In hindsight, Susan Day's journey back into the public eye was less about reclaiming a lost spotlight and more about building a sustainable, meaningful connection with her craft on her own terms. It was a quiet victory, one that might not have generated tabloid headlines, but solidified her legacy as a woman who navigated the peaks and valleys of Hollywood with resilience, grace, and an unwavering sense of self. Susan Day's legacy in American television is defined not just by the iconic roles she played, but by the subtle ways in which she influenced the portrayal of women on screen. In the 1970s, the Partridge Family presented her as Laurie Partridge, the responsible, intelligent, and quietly assertive older sister. At a time when young female characters were often written as ornamental or dependent, Laurie offered viewers a model of self-possession and wit. Day's performance helped broaden the archetype of the teenage girl on television, giving young audiences, especially young women, someone relatable who is capable of independent thought and emotional strength. Her portrayal of Grace Van Owen on LA Law in the late 1980s further cemented this influence. As one of the first widely recognized female television attorneys to be depicted as both professionally formidable and personally complex, Day challenged long-standing stereotypes about women in high-powered roles. Grace was not a caricature of toughness. She was human, vulnerable, and morally nuanced. The character's popularity inspired a generation of young women to imagine themselves in careers, law, politics, leadership, where female representation had long been minimal. In this way, Day's work contributed to the gradual cultural shift toward more multidimensional portrayals of women in television dramas. Off-screen, Susan Day's influence is equally noteworthy for what she didn't do. In an era when many actors leaned into personal publicity to remain relevant, she chose a path of privacy and restraint. This decision, while it may have reduced her media presence, also reinforced a counter-narrative that a performer's worth can be measured by the integrity of their work rather than the size of their celebrity footprint. Younger actors, particularly women, navigating the pressures of Hollywood, have often cited her as an example of how to maintain boundaries without compromising one's artistic ambitions. Her advocacy work, especially around issues of child welfare, mental health, and abuse prevention, added another dimension to her influence. Day used her platform selectively, lending her voice and resources to causes she believed in without turning them into self-promotional opportunities. This understated philanthropy resonated with those who value action over optics, further deepening the respect she earned within and beyond the entertainment industry. Today, Susan Day's legacy lives on in the balance she struck between fame and personal authenticity, and in the enduring characters she brought to life. While she may never have sought the label of trailblazer, her career choices and performances undeniably helped shape a more thoughtful, progressive, and humane vision of women on television. Her influence lingers quietly, like the roles she played, resonating in ways that continue to inspire long after the cameras stopped rolling. For all her success and quiet influence, Susan Dey's life was not without deep personal sorrow, much of it stemming from the private battles she faced behind the protective walls she built around her public image. One of the earliest and most profound challenges came during the height of the Partridge family's popularity, when the pressures of sudden fame collided with her natural shyness and perfectionist tendencies. As a teenager thrust into the spotlight, Dey struggled with an eating disorder, an illness she kept hidden for years. The constant scrutiny over her appearance and the unrelenting demands of being a network star in the 1970s left emotional scars that took a long time to heal. While she eventually overcame the disorder, the years of silent struggle remain one of the most painful chapters in her life, a reminder of how fame can wound as deeply as it rewards. Her greatest personal sorrow, however, was more relational than professional. During the years following the Partridge family, Dey's once close friendship with co-star David Cassidy deteriorated. Though the two shared a deep bond in their youth, misunderstandings, public revelations, and the passage of time created a rift that was never fully repaired. Cassidy would later speak openly in interviews about aspects of their relationship that Dey had kept private, and while he may not have intended harm, the public dissection of those memories caused her deep hurt. The estrangement weighed on her, and when Cassidy passed away in 2017, the knowledge that they had not reconciled became a lasting regret, a bittersweet reminder of how fragile and irreplaceable certain connections can be. In her private life, Dey also endured the pain of strained relationships and the inevitable losses that come with age. Friends from her early career drifted away. Beloved family members passed on. The grief she felt in these moments was compounded by her instinct to retreat rather than share her vulnerability publicly. This instinct, while protecting her privacy, also meant that she bore much of her heartache alone. Yet perhaps the most enduring sorrow in Susan Dey's life is the quiet knowledge that, despite her achievements, she never entirely escaped the shadow of her earliest role. While Lori Partridge made her famous, it also typecast her in ways that limited her career options. There is a melancholy in knowing that her range as an actress was never fully explored on screen, not because she lacked talent, but because Hollywood's narrow vision could not see past her teenage image. For someone who valued her craft deeply, this was a loss as real as any personal heartbreak. Still, Dey's sorrows have never defined her in the eyes of those who admire her. Instead, they have deepened her humanity, lending her an air of quiet resilience. In facing her greatest pains with dignity and without spectacle, Susan Dey has shown that strength is not always about overcoming sorrow, but about carrying it with grace.